I was supposed to arrive on Monday. That was the plan I'd told everyone. Back Monday. House is yours till then. Be good. Don't break anything. I'd said it lightly to Chloe, and she'd laughed in that bright, careless way 20-year-olds have when the future is only 3 days deep. The thing about plans is that they assume the day will cooperate. Mine didn't. The trip that was meant to be my neat professional victory lap became a slow, humiliating unraveling I couldn't stop. Meetings moved. Emails leaked. A younger woman, clever, ambitious, soft-voiced in public and cold-eyed in private, took the thing I was building and presented it as though my work was an ingredient, not the recipe. I watched a room believe her. I watched my own name slide down the agenda from headline to footnote, and I watched myself not fight it. That was the worst part. Not the loss, the silence. By the time the car dropped me at my house, the rain had started. Not a storm, just that light, needling rain that finds all the seams in your clothes. My suitcase felt heavier than I packed it. My coat was wrong for the weather. My face, I knew, was wrong for smiling. I could have gone to a hotel. I should have. That's what you do when you've had a public day and you need a private room to fall apart in. But I didn't want 4 beige walls and a minibar bearing witness. I wanted my kitchen, my floor, my lights, my air. I wanted the place that knew I was competent even when I wasn't. I wasn't thinking about the fact that I had let 2 20-year-olds stay here. I opened the back door harder than I meant to. It slammed. The sound cut through the house like a verdict. And there he was, Liam. My first treacherous thought was, of course he's awake. He was standing at the island, sleeves pushed up, dish towel in hand, doing the exact kind of small, respectful late-night cleaning that told me why I'd trusted him with my house. He straightened when he saw me, not out of fear, out of habit. I've spent my life around men who straighten when I walk into a room. I noticed, too, that he looked concerned before he looked guilty. That mattered. "You're still awake," I said. My voice sounded tired in my own ears. Not slurred, just frayed. "Good. Don't wake Chloe." "I won't," he said right away. "We didn't know you were coming tonight." "I wasn't," I said, dropping the bag with too much weight in the mudroom. The trip was cut short. I didn't tell him why. I didn't need to. My coat was damp, my makeup wasn't where it should be, and I was home at 1:30 a.m. on a Friday instead of Monday. A smart boy can read a sentence without all the words. The kitchen smelled like lemon soap and the last of the day. I smelled like rain and 20 years of pretending I was unshakable. Under both of those was the slow, expensive, steady burn of the scotch I'd had before telling my assistant I was done for the day. I slipped my coat off and let it fall over the chair. I could feel his eyes flick away politely, good, and then back, cautiously, better. I crossed to the cabinet, opened the right door without looking. My house still knew me, and took out a bottle I usually save for closing days. "Can I get you water?" he asked. The question was so ordinary, so kind, that I almost said yes. "This isn't a performance," I said instead, pouring more than I should. "It's a funeral." He didn't laugh. "Smart boy." "For what?" he asked. "For 20 years of being the woman, people don't imagine failing." I leaned back against the counter and let the glass rest in my hand without drinking. And for the very boring fact that someone younger than me decided it was her turn, and did it well. "There," it was said. He moved a step closer, slow. He didn't hover. He didn't fuss. He didn't say, "No, you're amazing," the way people do when they don't want to hear anything hard. He just stayed in the room, which is harder. "You came to the right place," he said. "Home is better than a hotel." I looked at him properly then. I'd always kept him at a professional distance. Polite, mentorish, the way you are with the nice boy your almost niece is dating. I'd clocked that he was mature, that he cleaned up, that he didn't talk over women. I'd also clocked that he stayed an arm's length from me because he understood that was the agreement. Tonight, the agreement felt thinner. "Do you always stay up this late?" I asked. "I stay up when I'm staying in someone else's house," he said. "Feels wrong to sleep before the owner." I smiled, truly smiled, for the first time since 10 a.m. chivalry at 20. "What a find trying to earn repeat bookings," he said. The banter loosened something in me I hadn't known was clenched. I wrapped my hands around the glass, and only then did I realize they were cold. I don't get cold easily. I don't shiver. Tonight I did, he noticed. "I'll get you the throw from the living room," he said, like it was nothing. I almost said no. I almost said, "I'm fine that standard line women in power used to stop being seen." But I was not fine, and maybe worse, I wanted to be seen. Just for a moment, just by someone safe. "Thank you," I said instead. He disappeared for a second and came back with the soft, wide gray throw I kept on the arm of the couch. He didn't fling it at me. He didn't fuss with it. He stepped close enough to offer it, and I pulled it over my own shoulders. Even that small gesture, him bringing, me accepting, felt like crossing some tiny, very private line. "Rough day?" he asked, in that way men do when they're ready for either yes or "I don't want to talk about it." "Rough visibility," I said. I was reminded I'm older. I was reminded I'm replaceable. I was reminded that men I have made a lot of money for still want the new thing, even when the current thing is not broken. His jaw ticked just barely. "That's stupid," he said. I huffed a little laugh. "It's capitalism. It's still stupid," he said. "You're still the person who built it." I took a sip then. Not a gulp. Not for effect. Just a sip to keep my throat from tightening. I didn't want to walk into an empty hotel room with that truth, I said, eyes on the sink, not on him. So I came here. I didn't plan on having an audience. "You don't," he said. "You have a guard." That made me look up. A guard. Not fan, not listener, not kid who'll tell everyone. A guard. Someone who would stand between me and embarrassment. "Is that what you're doing?" I asked softly. "Guarding me from my own house?" "From the wrong version of tonight," he said. Yeah. Oh, that was the moment I felt it. That very specific, very dangerous spark that jumps between two people when they realize they're both smart and they're both awake at the same time. It wasn't sexual. That would have been easier to shrug off. It was attuned, like being matched in tempo. I set my glass down. He watched the way I did it. I could feel myself getting weaker in the legs, not from alcohol, from letdown, from the exhaustion of holding armor on for 12 hours. I knew what would happen next. If I stood here too long, I would slide down the cabinet like something in a movie. I didn't want that. I wanted a couch. "Let's go to the living room," he said, reading me easily. "You won't win against that counter." "You're right," I said. "Walk me." It was deliberate using that word, walk me, not help me, not hold me, not catch me. Just be beside me while I do it. "Yeah," he said immediately. "Come on." He moved to my side but didn't touch me. His presence was enough to balance my steps. We crossed the 10 feet to the couch. I sat. He tucked the throw around me, neat, secure. His hands were warm through the fabric. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. God, it felt good to be taken care of for 5 seconds. "Elisa," he said, taking the glass from the coffee table before I could reach for it again, "you don't need more." I should have argued. I didn't. I watched him carry it back to the kitchen, rinse it, set it upside down. He moved like he belonged in my house. That should have bothered me. It didn't. It reassured me. He came back and sat in the chair opposite me, not on the couch. Not too close, but close enough that if I dropped my voice, he'd still hear it. "Tell me what actually happened," he said. Not demanding, inviting. So I did. I told him about the younger woman, the one I had mentored, the one I had opened doors for, the one I had accused silently of being too eager, and how she had simply waited for the gap and walked through it. I told him about the men who watched it happen and didn't stop it because it was beneficial. I told him about the call I knew I would have to make to a man I'd been married to in contracts and public photos, to tell him that for once I was not the winning horse. I told him about the hotel room I couldn't face. He didn't interrupt. He didn't even look like he was thinking of what to say next. He looked like he was holding the words for me so I could stop holding them. "Do you know what the worst part is?" I asked. "What?" I wasn't surprised. His eyes softened. "That's the part I hate for you," he said. I stared at him. For someone 20, he had an unfair command of gentle sentences. "You're very steady, Liam," I said. "Somebody has to be," he said, echoing me without knowing it. "And you're off duty?" I laughed, hand over my face, because it was either laugh or cry, and I had cried enough in airport bathrooms for one lifetime. Then the room shifted. There is a very particular kind of quiet that comes after a hard confession, not empty, not relieved, charged. I felt it. He felt it. We both sat in it. In that quiet, I looked at him not as the boy my almost niece is seeing, but as a man who had just witnessed me at my lowest and chosen kindness instead of leverage. That is attractive. And I saw in his eyes that he saw me too, not the host, not the homeowner, not the professional, just a woman who had come home at 1:30 a.m. because she didn't want to be alone with her collapse. If this were a worse story, we would have crossed the room. But it is not a worse story. So I said the thing out loud so it wouldn't haunt us. If I were 10 years younger, I said, I would make trouble tonight. He didn't smirk. He didn't look away. He held it. If I were 10 years older, he said, I'd let you. We both sat very still. We both smiled, not wide, not coy, knowing. We named the pull so we didn't have to act on it. That's what restraint looks like. After that, I felt safer. Naming it turned it from a danger into a secret. Will you stay? I asked, until I fall asleep. I don't like ending like this. I'll be in the kitchen, he said. I won't leave. Thank you, I said. And I meant it in a way I hadn't meant thank you to anyone all week. I lay back, the throw warm around me, the room dim, the rain soft, and my house finally feeling like mine again. I could see him in the kitchen, moving quietly, rinsing the glass, folding my coat. He looked like part of the place, like a guardian. Before sleep finally pulled me under, I thought, I will remember this night. Not because something happened, because something didn't, and because a 20-year-old boy chose to protect my dignity when I didn't have the strength to protect it myself. That, in my world, is rarer than any deal. And that was the real story. Not woman came home drunk and something wild happened, but woman came home broken, and the only man in the house chose honor over opportunity. That story I will tell myself for a long time.